Life with Mary Walter.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Life with Mary Walter. I, of course, am Mary Walter, and this is my friend Jennifer Bukowsky. Now, I met Jen at CPAC this past week, and we had a great time.
Too good a time.
We had a lot of fun. And by the way, your hair looks fab. It looks really nice. I know you were complaining because it was like raining out and you were all, on during CPAC, but it looks fantastic. So Jen is an attorney. She's from Columbia, Missouri, right? Columbia. She is the executive director of the Show Me Defenders. She's a Missouri Times columnist. She was a Trump delegate in 2016. She's the vice president for the Federalist Society's Jefferson City Lawyers chapter. And on top of all of that, she's raising 2 boys. So I don't know how she does it all.
President of the Federalist Society too.
I don't know how she does it. And the long before you did. I have no idea how you do it, and you look great the next morning. I'm so jealous.
That was a fun night for sure.
She's a crazy one. Well, which one? You had several fun nights.
Yeah, too many for my age. I'm like, oh wow, it's hitting us, but it was a great conference. You just go on adrenaline and fun times.
It was a great time.
Fantastic conversations. So meeting people like you, the Queen.
Oh, yeah.
Always awesome to meet new friends.
And I have a tiara for our conversation on the Royals.
Very, very lovely.
So one of the things we do, Jen, is I can bring up the comments on the screen here, and we can see what people have to say, and we can interact with them if we want to. And one of the things is everybody tries to see who gets in first to say hello first. They have a little competition, which is pretty funny. So we have today's winner is Pete, who was here at 7 o'clock. He was here before you were. Al at 7:01.
Those are
Pete.
Nice.
Pete at 7:01. I've been watching for 20 minutes. It's worth it. Al is now Shaman Al on Truth Social. Al got kicked off Twitter, I think, for like forever. I don't know what he did, but he got kicked off Twitter. So you can find him on Truth Social at Shaman Al or Shaman Al. I don't know how you pronounce that. He said he got canceled. Bill rolls in at 7:03. He says, last week you flipped the switch last minute. Tonight you flipped the switch real early. So, oh well. Meaning I didn't do a show on Thursday because we were at CPAC. And that's Pete says, missed you Thursday. Al said he spent a lot of time searching on Thursday. This is a new one. Lanny Brandmeier. New. Welcome. Welcome. Great to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's see. Pete says, over 350 subscribers. Yeah, we're getting there. And then they had to tell me that my mic was open when I was talking to you, which I didn't realize. So it's a good thing I didn't say anything weird. Al says, welcome, Jennifer. And Pete says, welcome, Jennifer. Al says, I keep freezing. So I don't see myself freezing, but am I freezing to you?
A couple of times.
All right. Well, hopefully it doesn't happen too much because I'd have to get out and come back, and then you're going to have to just lead the conversation. But I know you can handle it because she's also been on talk. You've also you've hosted a talk radio show too, right?
Right. I've had my own radio show, and I'm a regular guest on 2 different shows for an hour each a week. And much to the chagrin of one of those, I bring up the Royals quite often. So I just, for whatever reason, keep watching this family, and you can't look away. It's kind of like a car accident sometimes.
And so when last week during CPAC towards the end of the week, I started seeing a lot of stories about the Royals come up. And so I said to Jen, I said, hey, would you like to come on my podcast? We'll just have some fun talking about the Royals. And she's like, yeah, I'm there. So here we go. So the big news that happened last week is Prince Harry and Meghan Markle got booted from their home, Frogmore Cottage. What happened?
Yeah, it's a big shuffle. So I was thinking about this. Now King Charles booted his brother, Andrew, out of the Royal Lodge. And this is despite the fact that Andrew has paid $1 million for a 75-year lease on this property in 2003 and then spent £7 million remodeling it. But he's made no secret about his disgust with Prince Andrew, and he's cutting off his $300K a year salary. So I guess the plan is that he's going to now get Frogmore Cottage, and instead of this Royal Lodge that has 30 rooms and is on 93 acres of land with a separate building for security and all that. And then I read an article that said that Prince Andrew lost his apartments in Buckingham Palace, and Harry and Meghan will get those. But I was like, I wouldn't want them in my house when they're spying on me and bringing, camera crews in and making millions off of trying to make me look ridiculous or racist or whatever. Are those connected rooms? Do they can you walk just straight over to their bedrooms if you're in that wing of the palace? I don't know. Hopefully there's some separation there, obviously.
Well, apparently they actually, when they get a couple of rooms, it's actually an apartment is what they get in Buckingham Palace.
And rooms, so I was confused by that, but that makes much more sense. So it's like where, Princess Margaret's in one place and different miscellaneous relatives it must be one of those kind of situations.
Yeah, it's really big. But see, now apparently Prince Andrew was the Queen's favorite. And it's well known. Everybody knew it. And every parent says they don't have favorites, but every parent does. And people on the outside looking in know who's the favorite. And if you ask the kids when they get older, they all know who the favorites are, right? Dad may have one, mom may have another, but Prince Andrew was apparently the Queen's favorite. And now that she's gone, Charles is in charge. Do you remember that TV show? Charles in charge. And so he's apparently, like you said, there's a big shuffle, but Meghan and Harry, the British people, I think, paid £3 million or whatever to remodel that for them, or did they pay the $3 million?
I think that the British people originally paid for it and they repaid it. So that's another one where I'm like, is Charles just kind of stealing these properties that these people had leased? Because I was under the understanding that Frogmore was a gift. But I guess, when royals are involved, regular laws and property laws and things like that may not apply because they have charters going back forever and so many different miscellaneous rules that there's probably some exception for when there's a new king. Who knows? But I can't imagine King Charles. He's been waiting for this job a long time, so he's probably been making some plans a long time of how he's going to handle his younger brother. But is that modeling good behavior when you want your two sons to get along?
Well, let me ask you, do you think that Prince Harry eventually winds up back in the fold without Meghan?
I suspect there's a good chance that could occur, because where would he go if Meghan ditches him? He gets what she wanted out of him and moves on. He could go back into the fold and be kind of one of the more obscure older royals after they're not as young and good looking anymore. Is he still going to be that bright, shiny object that gets her the glory, or is she going to try to surpass his fame on her own and then leave him in the dust?
I think that, I don't think this marriage lasts. I don't think so. I think that Harry actually wakes up somewhere along the line when he's totally estranged, living in California, and the kids are like, especially Lilibet goes, "Wait, I was a real life princess. I could have been a real princess. What the hell, Dad?" Right? Yep. She realizes she's not a real princess. I don't even think it lasts that long. I think that this is, like 5 years.
And he goes back. I mean, he's done so much to his brother, and his brother will be king next. Like, his dad is nothing. I read that Spare book, as South Park lampooned it. And his dad is nothing but forgiving and understanding the whole time towards him. Every time he messes up, gets caught doing cocaine or wearing the Nazi costume or being naked in Vegas or all these bad boy hairy things, the dad is understanding and kind and be like, "That's okay, son." But Dad won't be around forever. I mean, Dad's a little long in the tooth. though he does have some longevity in his genes. Look how long his parents lived, so he could have a good 20 years in him, obviously. But it would be a different dynamic because you're second fiddle to your brother, and you've just dished dirt. And your mother-in-law is probably not too happy with you, or not mother-in-law, stepmom is probably not thrilled with you at this point, right?
Well, apparently he called his his stepmother, Camilla, a villain in Spare. Now you read Spare, so he apparently was not nice to her or didn't speak highly of her in that book. And apparently that's what tipped the domino, and that's what was behind the eviction from Frogmore Cottage. That his father, King Charles, was like, no, you're not bringing her into this. And that was it. Like, I'm going to start punishing you for bad behavior, I guess. A little late in the game for punishing him for bad behavior, but I guess better late than never. And besides, listen, Harry and Meghan are living in something like a $14 million mansion in Montecito, California. They got all these deals with Netflix and everything else. They don't need the royal money. They don't need any of that. And so I think Charles is taking away what he can, saying, look, if you don't want to be royal, if you've resigned from the firm, you can't expect to keep getting perks from the firm, right? Even though it's family.
It makes sense. I mean, it's sitting there empty, and it is a royal place. They're probably having to guard it or upkeep it, and it's smaller. So I guess the one argument, but who knows with these people, is that since Andrew is now losing his $300,000 a year salary, stipend, whatever, for working for the family, that's getting cut off. He won't be able to afford the upkeep of that royal lodge. And this is a smaller property that he can use in his inheritance and manage. But it was interesting. One of those articles, I think you sent it to me, or one of them, it said that he's personally paying for his younger brother's security, even though he's cut him out of the family. He's had to resign. He's not personally paying for his son's security. And that's what Harry went on whining about and used as justification for selling out his family and Spare quite a bit. These people, it's kind of funny because they're kind of tight with their own money. Like Harry's talking in that book about shopping the clearance sale at TJ Maxx for his clothes. He'd go in 15 minutes before closing time. TJ Maxx for his personal clothing. He's like, well, my princely clothing, all that regalia is paid for, but he's expected to pony up out of his own pocket for his like day-to-day clothes, and he'd go scoop up armfuls of them at TJ Maxx.
Okay, wait, first of all, do you believe that? They've got millions because they got a sweet deal with Netflix, right? And he got the money from the book. So, and no, apparently
but even at that point, he had already inherited millions from his mom. His mom, you got to keep in mind, divorced his dad like a year before and got a substantial amount of money that her two sons inherited. So they each had millions of dollars. Plus, when he turned 21, he had an estate like $8 million. So, I mean, he's got like $40 million at least from inheritances estimated, but he doesn't want to touch that money because he says in Spare, he sees that as a little bit in Archie's money, not his own. So they are into like accumulating cap. Good for them. That's how they're still in power. One of the last royals still on thrones in the world. And I think that's part of what fascinates me about them. It's like they're just a thing out of time, out of place and time, you know? It's just it's outdated. It's I don't know. It's an interesting thing to see.
It's outdated, but it is, as you said, fun to watch because we don't have that. So it is the ultimate reality show because they're so dysfunctional. And it's kind of cool to see if like every family is dysfunctional in a different way. So this is their dysfunction. They're so wealthy. They have all these trappings and everything, and they are so sad at the same time. You know, they've got their happy moments, but they also have the sad ones. A source told the Mirror that Harry's comments about Camilla were the last straw. It was the last straw. Harry was well aware of how Camilla could be a red line for his father, and he crossed it with flagrant disregard anyway. It was the ultimate act of disrespect. And that's why Daddy said, okay.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, Charles went through so much to be with her at the end of the day. And he has been completely protective of her and fought tooth and nail to get the woman that he's always loved. He hasn't ever loved anyone else. He never loved Diana. And he's fought so hard that she would get to be named queen, got his mom to say so before she died. And Harry to throw her under the bus and say that she suspects, to make herself look good, that they're leaking stories of conversations seems kind of ridiculous, especially considering, like, how many people do you have working around you at all times? You're going to say it was definitely her and not her hairdresser or whatever, maybe one of her friends is just loyal and saying things and it's not her directly.
Right.
It seems, he cast a lot of shade on her, and that is a bright red line that he should have known better than to cross, but he's not the brightest guy. Let's be real. I mean, he's clear about that in the book too. His grades were terrible. That's why he didn't go to college. He's terrible at school. Meanwhile, I think Diana was that way. She's never went to college. She's kind of an airhead, smart at some things, but not book smart. Meanwhile, Charles and William, both very book smart. And so there's that contrast going on too.
Well, I think there's also different pressure and different values that are placed on the heir and the spare, right?
Yeah.
Harry could do all the things that he did and get in all the trouble he got in, just like Andrew could, because there weren't as many expectations from them. I kind of think it's hard. Each is hard in its own way. Being the heir is hard because the expectations are set so high on you, and you can't screw up, and you have to watch everything you do, and you don't have the same freedom that your younger siblings have. But then they have issues because they're never going to be the heir. And then as soon as, like, William started having kids, William and Kate, well, Andrew just saw himself get kicked further down the line, and so did Harry, just saw themselves get kicked farther down the line. So they become less and less important, I think, as time goes on. Let's see. Al says the royals put the fun in dysfunctional.
Yeah. They're always up to something. Did you see, like, Harry's getting live therapy that you could buy a $40 ticket to watch him undergo trauma therapy?
I heard about this with Dr. Gabor Mate. He's his psychotherapist. Now, just very quickly, one more thing about Frogmore Cottage. They have until early summer to vacate. They were initially just given a couple weeks, but now they have until after the coronation to vacate. They originally
have over there. They're going to take their silverware out. I'm sure they have all their stuff. Like, what exactly do they have to vacate from there? It seems like it's a ready to go rental, but whatever.
It's like an Airbnb.
Yeah.
They say they're not fighting it. An insider said that originally we were told that they were stunned by this, but an insider told the Times of London that they're not fighting it. They realize they have a home in California. They have a roof over their heads. They were very privileged to have a second residence. It's not going to work out for them, and that's okay.
I bet there's some maneuvering behind the scenes, like, well, do you want to sit in the front rows at this coronation? Or do you want to be wearing the full military regalia? All that stuff is probably being negotiated. And quite frankly, it's a lot more valuable to Harry to be able to be sitting front and center at the coronation than it is to have a cottage that he never uses, because it's in Windsor anyway. So even when they're in the UK, they're in London. And so those apartments at Buckingham Palace would be a lot more useful to them.
That's a good point. So, like you said, he also claims he didn't see himself as a victim. He's told his psychotherapist apparently that he doesn't see himself as a victim. I did not and have never looked for any sympathy in this, which I don't believe. But here's my question: if the book Spare and his little publicity, what was it? What did South Park do? Their Leave Me Alone, wasn't it? Their anti-publicity tour, right?
Privacy tour.
That's right, right.
Yes, leave us alone. We want privacy. Yeah.
That's right. We want privacy. We want privacy.
So just don't want sympathy. Give me a break. Like, you clearly wrote a whole book about how you have suffered all this trauma throughout your life because of the mom and the paps and, the backstabbing family and everything else. And I don't envy him his position, honestly. I mean, it would be a difficult thing for anyone to try to maneuver.
But he grew up in it. She didn't. And I get that, it's hard. And Kate obviously was much more built for being a royal. She's British. She knows the deal.
Yeah.
But but here's the thing, if you know the damage that the book and your publicity tour, your privacy tour did to your family relations, why would you now be doing psychotherapy talking about your family on the air? Like, why?
Why would you be doing any of this? He justifies it in the book that he wanted to do this so he gets money to pay for security for his family. So you're selling the family out. But yeah, throughout the book, you're complaining about all these articles and different things being written about, and he knows that they're going to be reading it and they're not going to be able to comment back.
Right. They can't, they don't say anything. They're taking the high road. Now, Lonnie says maybe Harry was a victim to Jimmy Savile. Do you understand what that means?
Oh, I never heard that, but he was this like really famous kind of talk show host. It was like a music show or whatever, but he was like a very well-known figure. It'd be like, I don't know what equivalent would be. Oh, I do know, like one of these, not Justin Timberlake, but maybe someone like that hosts all the things. And so he's just
like an MC, like
yeah.
What's Ryan Seacrest?
Yeah, like that's who I'm thinking of. How'd you do that? That's so funny. So he was like that, but in Britain, and so he pretended to be all charitable, and he was doing all kinds of creepy, weird stuff in hospitals to mental patients. And it turns out he was a real perv. But I don't know that he would have had how much contact he would have had with the royals. I mean, I know he knew them and all that, but I don't know if there was like a Michael Jackson spend the night in my house situation going on or what.
And lastly, two more things that we're going to move on because I want to end the podcast at 8:00 tonight because Tucker Carlson's coming on, and I know a lot of people want to watch Tucker. And at 9:40 Eastern, I will be on Newsmax TV with Jen Pellegrino on Prime News, at 9:40 on Jen Pellegrino's show. So I wanted to end a little bit early tonight. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle did receive an invitation to the coronation. That was a big question. Nobody knew if they were going to get invitations. They did. It is May 6th, which is also their son Archie's 4th birthday. Do you think that they wind up sitting separately like they did during Charles's installation? Remember, they wound up in a section next to the royal family, not sitting with the royal family. And Harry didn't have on did he have on his royal stuff during that? I forget.
He wear it when the Queen died. Yeah, that was it. Exception. And so I think a lot of this stuff is being negotiated as we talk about the Frogmore Castle and the shuffling with the Royal Lodge and Prince Andrew. And so I think there's got to be a lot of back channel negotiations going on. Are you getting invited, and what kind of status will you be given when you're over there? But I love how they're like, we can confirm that we received an email, but we haven't responded yet. Like, you've got anything better to do May 6th. Give me a damn break. Like, you're going, your whole empire and your whole career, like you're making millions off that. You've got to go. There's one day that you got to be, you're definitely going to be there. Give us a break.
Oh my! Well, it is Archie's 4th birthday, and I'm a big fan of kids don't remember their 4th birthday, so it doesn't matter. You could celebrate that kid's birthday the following week, and they will never know.
They'll want to have their kids there, I would imagine, at the coronation and photographed as being part of it. I mean, 4, I think they start putting kids in the outfits and bringing them over once they're past like 2.
Can you imagine when these kids get older and their cousins are princes and a princess, and they're like, wait a minute, I could have had that. Like, I just can't get over that. Like, what do you mean I'm going to public school? Do you know what they get? Like, and I could have had all of that.
Right. But on the other hand, like the other 2 cousins aren't nearly as well known, but they are friends. Like Harry's still friends with the one girl. There's the Prince Andrew's 2 girls actually that he had with Fergie.
Beatrice.
So they do have kind of Beatrice and what's her name? Well, anyways, they kind of gives them a peer group, and they're not having that opportunity to have those kind of quasi peers because they're not being raised over in London with their 3 cousins, Williams kids.
Beatrice and Eugenie.
Yeah, that's what Super Bowl.
Yes.
With
there we go. Okay, and lastly, Chris Rock. I just want to move on here. Chris Rock mocked Meghan Markle's comments that the royal family is racist.
Did you see that?
I'm sorry, but Prince Charles walked her down the aisle because she was having a blowout with her dad. They welcomed her mother in. Her mother, sat with Charles and stuff, and they welcomed her into the family. I don't. I just don't think that they're racist people. I just don't see it. I just think Meghan Markle is one of those liberals who just sees race in everything that happens.
Right. It's funny because she said, well, they're so racist. They asked how brown the baby's going to be. And Chris Rock's like, that ain't racist. Black people want to know how black the baby's, like how brown the baby's going to be. Like, that's a thing. Anytime people are having babies together and they're married, you wonder what they'll look like. So I never thought that was a racist comment to begin with. And Oprah acting all like, what? It's like, give me a break. Chris Rock's like, that is a normal thing that black people talk about. Like, are we going to get a this and that baby? Or I forget the names he used, but it was pretty funny. And he said a lot of the stuff she's complaining about ain't racism. It's some in-law S word, like
Right.
It totally is. And it would be hard for anyone, like for a white girl to go into a black family and be accepted. Yeah, that'd be harder, is what Chris Rock says. So it was pretty funny. He's like, can you imagine bring a white girl home for Thanksgiving? Your mom is going to say something like, why is there a social worker at the dinner table? Like, that's what he was joking about. It is like there's tricky dynamics in every family, and that doesn't mean that the people are necessarily racist. They were very welcoming to her, I feel like. And she'd always gone on about like, you can't tell what race she is. She's a very ambiguous person walking down the street, and she'd build herself that way in Hollywood. She's just like a beautiful girl. And Chris Rock says, you got the light skin lottery, but it's only with this generation, this country, that you could grow up to be a beautiful, successful actress, marry literally a prince, and still be a victim. All your dreams came true, honey. Give me a break. That's great for you.
Yeah, that's not working out for her too well, though. It just really isn't. I just want to move on just quickly. Today is National Cereal Day.
Mm-hmm.
And so who does not like cereal? And you have 2 kids. How old are your kids?
13 and 15.
Oh, and they're boys.
Cheerios lovers are in our household.
Honey Nut Cheerios, you said?
Yeah. Yep. Those are the faves. How about you guys?
Well, we don't eat a lot of cereal here because we try to stay off the carbs. But I have been known to, especially with when the pumpkin season comes out, pumpkin mini wheats, those pumpkin spice mini wheats, I can eat an entire box in one sitting.
I can do that with Girl Scout cookies, unfortunately for me.
I just bought like $20 a Girl Scout. If you want to feel old, go buy Girl Scout cookies. Now these girls are out there with a table set up. They started saving bags. They said in November they would have bags to give people so they could buy a lot of cookies, because they said sometimes people don't buy a lot of cookies because they can't carry them. So we started saving bags from their moms. They have a little credit card reader, a handheld credit card reader now. And they're $5 a box. If you want to feel old, go buy Girl Scout cookies. If you ever sold Girl Scout cookies, and look at them and go, when I sold them, they were 50 cents a box. And they look at you like you are ancient. Like, like how long ago was that? Was that like 100 years?
But in the Girl Scouts' defense, at least they're good cookies. And the Boy Scout popcorn, have you seen this stuff? I'm like, are you just asking me to give you money? $25, $35 for a tin of crappy popcorn? Like, can I just give you the cash? Like, don't even mess with the popcorn. I mean, that's basically you're just asking me to give you money. Okay, I'll just say you want money. There's no value there. The popcorn's awful. And it's like they're doing it at, I don't know, 50 times cost.
I don't even know if our Boy Scouts sell popcorn. I've never seen it. I've never seen it.
It's the biggest racket. Like, at least the Girl Scouts are actually selling a product that people like. The Boy Scouts are like, you're a relative I know, so you have this obligation.
Yeah. Al says, you were right, Mary. Jennifer is a lot of fun.
Oh, thanks, Al.
Telling you, you should see her about 11 o'clock at night. No, but it's good fun. It's not embarrassing. It's not embarrassing fun. It's good fun. I still have, though, the sequence. We were trying to take a picture at the Gaylord in the Belvedere bar, 4 of us, 4 women. And it was like herding cats. And I have the sequence of events of pictures of no one paying attention. It's
Oh man.
hilarious. It's hilarious. Over on Getter, Scott says 50 cents. That's when the peanut butter cookie was a peanut butter cookie and it was the most delicious. And he also said,
Tagalong.
check out the cereal selection at Costco. They have low carb, low sodium, everything. So they have some of those special
Ooh.
cereals. But when I was a kid in our house, everybody got one box of cereal. Everybody could pick out one box, and that was your box of cereal. And my mother, you could not get another box until you finished the old box, because we would buy the box based on the toy that was inside as opposed to the cereal.
Hey.
And you
That's good
dig
luck.
down to get the toy, and,
Yeah.
and then you leave the cereal. My mother's like, no, I'm not buying it. So you had to finish your box before you could get another one, before you could pick out another one. And I was a Count Chocula girl. My one brother was a Blueberry, and my other brother was the strawberry. What was the strawberry one? Count Chocula, Blueberry. I forget who was the strawberry one. I forget who that was. But so we each had our own box, and my father would sit there and he'd look at the boxes of cereal in the morning. He'd go, you can eat the cardboard and get more nutrition than you can out of
Right,
this.
yeah.
Sugar.
These are horrible for you.
Horrible. But every now and then I do like a good box of cereal, especially like Frosted Flakes. I'm disappointed in Apple Jacks because Apple Jacks don't have as much of the coating on them as they used to when we were kids.
I forgot about those. Those are good.
And I remember when, what was it? Sugar Crisps. They used to be Sugar Crisps, and then they became Honey Crisps. Remember, they're not Sugar Crisps anymore. They
Yeah.
changed the name. Sugar Pops aren't Sugar Pops anymore.
Oh,
There's
Corn Pops.
Corn Pops, right?
Was a bad dude. I know this is not political, but
Exactly. There was a story about a girl.
That is hilarious. What a smart Girl Scout. She has a future in marketing and sales for sure. She'll be making some money, owning some stuff someday. Selling those cookies outside a dispensary is genius. Like, I think that in retrospect, this has become legend in my neighborhood. You go door to door selling these things, and some house down the street, I don't never knew who these people were. But they're like, Girl Scouts, I haven't seen this. And they bought like 150, which back then was like unheard of, $150 worth. It was just like jackpot. And then every year after that, right at 7 a.m, all the Girl Scouts would be like knocking on their door. They never bought in those quantities again. But thinking back to it, I'm like, I bet they were potheads. I bet it had something to do with what was going on there.
Well, I remember that story. It was last year in California. I think it was California, maybe Colorado, about the girls selling them outside the dispensary. Lauren, Lonnie, and Jerry say it was Frankenberry. Thank you.
That's it.
That was it. Thank you so much. Yeah. So a fun story. I don't know how we got off on Girl Scout cookies, but I think I took us there. But anyway, so a friend of ours from England was working at the Pentagon, and he was living in Arlington, Virginia at an apartment that they had for them. And he calls me up one day. He goes, what is going on? He goes, there's girls in the lobby of our apartment building, and there's a line, and people are buying things from them. And I said, oh, Girl Scout cookies. And so I had to explain to him, and he got it, knew what it was. And I said, you need to go buy them. They're amazing. You will be hooked, especially the Thin Mints. If you like a good mint cookie, you got to get them.
Freezer.
Yep. Put them in the freezer. Pete says his favorite, Captain Crunch. Captain Crunch is good out of the box. If you put it in milk, it gets goopy, it gets pasty.
Yeah, no good. Got to eat it quick.
Exactly. You have to eat
Krispies. Got to eat that quick. Get your sugar on it and then spoon it in your mouth.
So Captain Crunch, I saved up the box tops, because back in the day you could buy, you could send the box tops in and you would get like a check for shipping or whatever it was. And I got a treasure chest with a plastic shovel, and the treasure chest was your bowl. And I got a shovel, and that to this day, I remember that. I wish I still had it. It's probably worth a lot of money now, but I had that treasure chest and the Captain Crunch shovel, to eat my food with. My mother was like, my mother, of course, my parents totally cynical, but I had to have it so I could shovel the Captain Crunch in my mouth
Oh my
quickly so
gosh.
that it didn't become paste.
They do it. Their marketing campaign worked on you for sure.
It did. Cocoa Krispies, Lauren says. Scott says, Scott says, the Girl Scouts, I don't want them to feel bad, so I say I'll keep them in mind when I see them selling cookies. Cookies really aren't on my diet anymore these days. Of course, they're not on anybody's diet, but to your point, put them in the freezer. I bought 4 boxes because my husband's studying for his board, so I got him his 2 favorites, and then I got, had to buy Thin Mints for me. But you put them in the freezer, they'll last forever in the
Not
freezer.
in my freezer, they won't, unfortunately. I have a couple glasses of wine. I see those in there. I can put away a good sleeve of those before you know it. Oh my gosh.
Which is your favorite?
The Thin Mints that in the freezer. Like if I discover that, oh boy. At night when I've had a glass of wine or something, there goes the diet for the day. Yep. It could be good all day. Then you see that, you blow it all.
So my friend from England, he got some Girl Scout cookies, and so his wife came, and so I brought them a bunch of Girl Scout cookies, in one of every box, and she ate the entire box of Thin Mints, and she was so embarrassed that she put them back in the freezer, even though the box was empty, so that he wouldn't know that she ate them all. And it wasn't, he found out. He was like, how did you eat these so fast? Ron says, oatmeal with ginger, cinnamon, and raisins. Do they make Girl Scout cookies that are oatmeal with ginger, cinnamon, and raisins? I don't think so.
This wouldn't be something that I'd put on the order sheet if they did, but
no. And it's all on the computer now. There's no order sheet.
Yeah.
They all stand there. They have their little handheld computer, like their little computers, right? Along with their little handheld credit card reader. And they're on the computer going, da, 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 da. Okay, that'll be da, 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 da. And they mark it off on their sheet and everything. It's actually great because it teaches these girls about business. It teaches them, they realized that people will buy more if they can have a bag to put it in to carry, right?
Yeah, now I can have them shipped. My husband got some shipped. Like
no way.
The Girl Scout and her parents didn't have to hassle with like getting them to us. Like all the other years, you could just pay extra to have them shipped.
Wow. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that. Jerry says Cinnamon Toast Crunch all day long.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one too. All right. So last but not least, we're not going to have time to do the dating coach topic, but very quickly, I'm going to do the recap of the Real Housewives of New Jersey. Now, you are not a fan, but you did watch one episode, so that's fine. So very quickly, for those of you who watch, Teresa and Louis got together, and Louis threw Teresa's brother Joe under the bus, but he did say that Joe was right about the wedding snub of Joe's in-laws, of his wife Melissa's family. So he did say that to Teresa. Louis told Teresa to make peace. He had her called her brother Joe, and then Teresa didn't know what to do. So Louis writing on paper, telling Teresa what to say to Joe to make peace. And what she said is, do you want to make peace? And Joe kind of blew it off a little bit. I think she's just really hurt him. So I don't know if there's any reconciliation.
Husbands are major characters in that show. I didn't know that the men were that involved.
The men of the Real Housewives, I love them. I love the men of New Jersey. I want to party with those dudes, and they're fantastic. I think they're some of the most active and involved men of all of the Real Housewives franchises.
Maybe because I had always been under the impression it's like women and they're having these, settings where they're going to snipe at each other and whatever. It's kind of like junior high where you're forced to be together. This is like you're casted together. So then they're going to like send you in for conflicts.
Yeah. Well, the women are full of conflict. The women are constantly fighting, but the men, the men get along, and they drink a lot. And there's some new housewives, but Melissa and Joe, so Joe is Teresa's brother and Melissa is his wife. And when Teresa went away, as we like to say in Jersey,
she's the one that went to prison, right? Okay.
Right. No, she went away.
Away. Okay. Is that a euphemism for smoking? Remember?
Lauren said she made it half an episode. She couldn't keep up with the drama.
That's all I did was half an episode. Yeah, it's a lot to.
Yeah. So anyway, when she went away, Joe, her brother, and his wife stepped up to help Teresa at the time's husband, who had just come out, had just gotten back from being away. He had no way to make money. So they did a podcast with him in order to help him put food on the table. But Teresa's given them zero credit. Jennifer and Bill Aiden, she wants him to agree with her no matter what. And I cannot stand her. She is just not a good person. And she's very backstabby, very gossipy, which is why she's going to be she's pretty much one of the stars of the show. And he had an affair and it became public last season. And the affair was a while ago, but it became public last season. So she uses that as like a tool against him. Like when it comes to parenting the kids, she's super permissive, and he's like, the kids got to learn life skills. They got to know how to vacuum. They have to know how to do dishes. They have to have chores. And so she's paying them $15 an hour. And he's like, no, that's not what I mean. But she kind of goes against him, I think, just to get at him because the affair became public. And I think she's upset about that. She feels embarrassed. She said the kids are embarrassed. The kids found out about it and everything else. The two new women, Jen Fessler and Rachel. I absolutely love Rachel because she's hilarious. She's the only one who still has her original nose, the one God gave her. She's had no plastic surgery. She's a riot. She lost a lot of weight, but at the mozzarella party, the mutz making party two episodes ago, she's there just shoveling the food in her mouth. Melissa didn't finish her sandwich. She goes, "Whose is that?" And Melissa said, "Oh, it's mine." She said, "Can I eat it?" She said, "Sure." She eats it. She doesn't care at all. I love her. She's a riot. So Jennifer, Jen A tried to flip them against their friends. There was a housewarming party. And here's what I don't like. Teresa discusses family issues with her children, whereas Joe and Melissa send the kids away from the table to have the conversation. And so Teresa is turning the kids against their aunt and uncle. And I think that that's really bad. I don't have children, but I just don't think that the kids have to be involved in everything.
And that's not modeling good behavior to be backstabby about your relatives. Then that's what your kids are going to learn to do, right? To you too. And then you're going to have them marrying actresses in Hollywood and writing books about you.
Yeah.
But that's just not good values to teach them.
Yeah, so it all went down at the housewarming party for Teresa and Joe, Teresa and Louis' home, and it just went downhill. And of course, what happens? All the guys are having a great time. They're drinking, they're having a great time. They're all, they don't take anything personally. And of course, the women are fighting. And, somebody leaves and the guys got to take them and they're like, I got to take her home, but the guys all get along and have a great time. And I absolutely love it. So
they're very sensitive about each other. The one I saw, she walked near me and didn't properly acknowledge her. So she got all mad about it. Then that was the whole thing. Like, I'm not that tuned into people around me, as you might have noticed, I might accidentally come near you and not say hi. And it wasn't an intentional snub, but it might be perceived as such by sensitive eggshells like that gal, whoever she was.
Yeah, they're all about their honor and this and that and everything else. And the guys are hilarious because they just don't care. Scotty said, had a fun time watching you all this evening. Al punched out. See you on Thursday. He's not into the Real Housewives talk. So we will be back on Thursday. I have pictures from CPAC, and I'll show you the picture of the four of us once we finally got to take the picture. And don't forget, 9:40 tonight Eastern, I'll be on Newsmax TV with Jen Pellegrino. And how can they follow you on Twitter?
I'm at Esquire on Fire, ESQ on Fire.
ESQ on Fire. So thank you so much, Jen. I really appreciate you being here with me. You're great. I'm going to have you back, especially when we get closer to the coronation.
Yes,
definitely have to have you back. And also, I'm going to keep you in my pocket maybe on a Thursday night for some legal discussions. maybe
What?
we can have you on about some legal things that I
There's
have
always
questions.
stuff going on, that's for sure. Anything
100.
criminal, that's my jam. Criminal law.
Criminal law, right? Okay. Well, I may have some questions about some other things, but we'll see. We'll see. I have a lot. I have a lot of questions. So, but thank you. You're the best. I appreciate you joining me. Everybody, you can go watch Tucker. I know a lot of people punching out. I will see you on actually tomorrow on the Chris Salcedo show on Newsmax. So 9:40 tonight, and then between 4:30 and 5 tomorrow. So I'm a very busy girl. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Thank you so much. Bye.
You got 1,000 people dancing and you still don't mind.